So welcome to the third episode of Roll Talk. Now today we got Chanel Clark. Basically the reason I really wanted to get you on is I've been seeing what you've been doing on LinkedIn lately, and I think you've built the marketing club over there. It's thriving. I can see that, and I really wanted to dig into that and kind of how that came about. And actually, I had a conversation earlier this week, which will be another episode, looking at kind of community within the digital space in the UK and how that's doing good things for the job market and including entry level as well, because there's a problem at the moment in the UK. Entry level people have got huge barriers to entry now. Mm-hmm. People willing to take juniors on because they see them as a cost, versus obviously we've got the AI tech bros as well who think that they can take out a whole junior lads. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so really what I wanted to do was start off, what I always want to do is start off looking at people's early career. So how you got into marketing and what steps led you to where you are today, having set up this kind of thriving community.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my journey, if anyone follows me on LinkedIn, definitely wasn't linear. I don't think that exists anymore. But when I got into marketing, I didn't even really know what marketing was when I was younger. There was just, when I left school, I either wanted to be a photojournalist or an artist. Like, it was one of those two. And I went and tried the artist route, realized it was a lot more fun painting in my room than it was actually studying art at a university. So I binned that off pretty quick. And then I was like, right, now I'll go on to my next thing, which is journalism. And at the time, I mean, this was about 15 years ago now, there weren't really any marketing specific papers at my university. So journalism was the closest that I could get to in terms of learning how to write and everything. And then there was one semi-marketing paper at the uni that I was at. And I was like, oh, this is quite interesting, because it was all around, like, I'm a massive word nerd. So being able to understand, how what we say can impact what people do, how they feel. Like, I think I kind of just inadvertently fell into and this is, kind of what marketing's about. I struggled at uni though, because I don't learn well in a classroom. 10 years later, I realized that I have ADHD, so everything now makes sense. But when I was younger, I was, got out of school and just kind of thought oh my gosh, am I not a good learner? Have I got issues? But now I get it. So I really struggled at uni because I didn't learn well in the format that they were teaching. And then on top of that, I was just getting frustrated that what I was learning in the classroom already felt quite irrelevant. Instagram had been out for a few years. I was doing papers saying that Instagram had just come on. The way that they were describing what Instagram was completely different to what it actually was. And I was just like, oh God, I feel like I'm not learning anything here that's actually going to help me. And, I'm a massive believer in getting experience. So I think within my first year or year and a half of uni, I was like, okay, I've got to do this degree, because this is the thing I'm told that is going to get me the job. And, 10 or 15 years ago, it was no one was hiring people if you didn't have a uni degree, whereas now obviously the whole world has shifted. But I was like, right, I've got to finish my degree, but I also need to get work experience. So I started reaching out to a bunch of marketing and social media agencies at the time in New Zealand, just saying hey, I want to get experience. I'll work for free. I'll do anything. Just let me in the room. So ended up landing an internship at a social media agency while I was at uni. And that was obviously my first foot in the door, figured out what social media even was from a career point of view. Facebook ads had just come out when I started at that agency. So that was the big exciting thing now, that you can, put money behind these things to target people. And I loved it. But after about a year, I was doing the same thing with the agency. I was just managing 12 different social media accounts, and it was, day in, day out, groundhog stuff. And I was like, okay, there's got to be more to marketing than this. So after that, I ended up randomly landing a job as a magazine as the editor. And had no experience. I think maybe sometimes I just talk myself up so much. Everyone's like, oh God, the confidence, she must know what she's doing. And that was me. If anyone's ever seen Devil Wears Prada, I was Miranda Priestley living out my marketing editor dream. It was just, my soul was on fire in terms of being able to, control the magazine, control the themes. I got to work with an advertising team to put ads in the magazine, obviously got to liaise with copywriters and photographers. So that was really cool to get that kind of experience. And then after that, I was like, okay, so I understand social media. I understand now a physical product of marketing as a magazine. but I kind of really want to get, other marketing experience as well. So I ended up getting a job at a B2B business as a digital marketing executive. And that was sort of the foray into CRMs and newsletters and white papers and, more of that like digital, like nitty gritty marketing. I definitely didn't enjoy it. Like I realized B2B marketing, and again, this was 10 years ago, so this isn't a fair litmus test of how far B2B has come now, but back then it was still very much boring marketing, not really anyone being excited about stuff. And I found that role quite challenging because I'm such a creative person. So to be in a role where it was sort of more like I was just expected to kind of fit in and do the things that they were already doing and not really be allowed to put like my flavor on things was quite hard. But one thing that I've learned as I've come through my career is as long as I'm learning or growing, I will stay in a role until I think I've like rinsed everything for all that it's worth. So I stayed there for a while. Unfortunately, when COVID hit in New Zealand, I got made redundant day one of the lockdown. And that was more of a reflection on the business of not understanding how meaningful marketing was. I think every marketer will say that they feel like marketing is always seen as a cost center to a business. So as soon as we hit lockdown, the whole marketing team was let go. Obviously blessing in disguise, because for me, I was like, well, if you're letting your marketing team go when everyone's, turning digital, shame on you. It was a lot harder to understand at the time because I was in my 20s and I was like, oh my God, like the industry doesn't want me. What am I going to do? And it was humbling for sure. Like I remember, going home, obviously all the tears, wondering what I was doing in my career, having been pushed out of this company. And because it was during lockdown, no one was hiring because no one knew what the impact of lockdown was going to have on businesses. So no one, was out there trying to be like, oh, you know what, we need more staff while we're, unsure of what's going to happen. So I ended up obviously unemployed during lockdown, which was not fun. I am obviously someone that, isn't willing to kind of just sit down and do nothing. So I thought, right, if I could at least try and get work experience for other roles or agencies while I'm in lockdown, at least to kind of, keep my brain moving, keep busy, feeling like I matter in some point of the world, like not have this 3-month career break. And I ended up reaching out to honestly almost every media agency, social media, advertising agency in Auckland/New Zealand at the time and said, like, I will work for free. I just need to do something. Like, this is the experience I've got. Whatever you need, I'll do it. Like, I'll clean up data. I'll write newsletters. I will just do anything to keep me busy. And I ended up getting a job writing ad copy on Wish. I don't know if you guys have that in the UK, but it's like Alibaba or AliExpress.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and it was humbling as hell because I'd had, at this point, I'm sort of like 4 years into my career. And obviously I don't think I'm above anything in marketing, but I was like, I felt like I wasn't, built to write ad copy for some like mass produced conglomerate selling online products. So it was very humbling, but what it did do was teach me how to hone my copywriting skills. I was getting like headings and subheadings of like how many words I needed to fit in to write, descriptions for a website of like magnetic mosquito nets and like chargeable lunch boxes. And it was so, I guess, like it felt like such a step back, but I was like, well, at least I'm learning. I think I was getting paid like $8 per ad that I wrote. So I was at least making a little bit of money as well. So it was like speed and efficiency. Obviously ChatGPT didn't exist back then. So it was literally me doing it. And then when I came out of lockdown, I ended up landing a role at an agency. And it was an interesting role there. I was hired as the growth manager for a SaaS product that they were launching. And then I was also hired as the marketing manager for the agency itself. So I was kind of getting a whole bunch of experience at the same time because I was introduced with my growth manager role. I was introduced into the product and tech world, how to launch a SaaS product, how to kind of validate, customer journey, road mapping, releasing new features, etc. And then with my marketing role for the agency, it was literally, how to market a business basically. And then while I was there, I ended up getting headhunted for a head of marketing role at an FMCG brand.
Nice.
And again, never had FMCG experience before. So I remember when I got hired by that business, there was like an article in the FMCG news, like, who is this person coming in with no FMCG experience? But again, talked my ass off in an interview. Obviously the match was there on some level or they wouldn't have hired me. And that was probably like the career defining role if I had to choose one that was able to show me what I was capable of, because I literally came into the role as the first marketing hire, had to build marketing up as a function in the business and then go and execute on all things marketing as well. And then I did that for about think it was 18 months, almost burnt myself out because for the 18 months of the 2 years that I was there, I was the only marketing person within the business. And I was everything: website, social media, partnerships, sponsorships, activations, influencers, trade shows. Like, I think by the time I left, I had almost 21 days in lieu owed to me because of the amount of trade shows I'd worked on weekends. So yeah, almost burnt myself out, which, you know, felt like a bit of a career backstep because I had to take mental health leave and kind of like fix myself because I'd immersed so much of my personality in the role that I had that I'd kind of just blurred the lines of, you know, what work-life balance looked like. I had no boundaries. And while I was on mental health leave, I obviously started thinking about, you know, what's next for me, because clearly this role is ruining me, not because of them, but because of me, because I just enjoyed it so much that I wasn't able to kind of differentiate who I was. So while I was on mental health leave, I ended up making the decision to go out on my own as a marketing consultant. And that was really because while I was doing the work at this FMCG brand, they'd almost become a case study, especially in New Zealand, of what really good marketing could look like. And because I had no FMCG experience, I didn't market them like other FMCG brands were. So naturally we stood out and we were kind of becoming, you know, the case study, like I said earlier, of like, oh, wow, just because you're this brand doesn't mean you have to market this specific way. Like, you can take inspiration from how other brands market and use that in your industry as well. So it kind of planted a seed in my head of, you know, A, I know a hell of a lot. B, there's so many people reaching out to me being like, how did you do that thing? Like, can I pick your brain on this? And I was like, oh, maybe I could offer this as a service to, you know, a bunch of other people rather than just one brand. So yeah, took the leap, went out on my own. That was wild. I had no idea. And this was probably where the whole like LinkedIn journey kind of really started, is I had no idea that so many people had been paying attention to what I had done for that brand, especially on LinkedIn. Like, I was almost like daily documenting all the things we were doing. So when I went out on my own, I was fully booked within a month because so many people had known and was following the journey that then when I, you know, it was almost came out as like a gun for hire, everyone was like, oh my God, we've already seen what you've done. Like, now can you come do it for us? So it was a super wild time. And yeah, now 2 years later, I'm still doing that. And while I was at Arepa, that was when I also had the motivation to start the marketing club that I run. And that was purely because I was, you know, had no support in that role. I was handed a big budget, basically told to go do all the things. And by the way, can you make sure the company's growing 200% month on month? And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing here. So basically just tried to like bring some other humans together that I could trauma bond with. And then it, you know, unintentionally turned into this community of 12,500 other marketers that also needed to trauma bond with each other.
Fair play. Well, I think the theme that runs throughout that, and it's something we'll come on to actually, I think it's a good time to segue into it, is imposter syndrome. So you said a few times you didn't know what you were doing there, etc., but you clearly did. You clearly did in the end, because you achieved what you needed to achieve, and then that brought you to something else. And then whilst doing that, you're building a community. So that's more than most people, right? But there's a few things I can hard relate on there. So firstly, like the early stuff. So, and I had a very similar background. So I wanted to be a journalist and I had no idea what that meant. I just kept getting told at university, yeah, you're a good writer. So I thought, all right, we'll give that a go. And the market wasn't great for it. It's 2008. So it was just the original recession in the UK. So I landed a copywriting role for a pharmaceutical brand. Now it transpired that pharmaceutical brand also sold, what's the best way to put this, adult toys, we'll call them. Now that was a wild time, but off the back of that's how I got into SEO as a marketer, which then led me to content marketing, which then inadvertently, loads of things happened in between, kind of led me to be a recruiter for the space, because I would do all my own recruitment, because there was a lot of recruitment that needed to be done, and at that time I could never find a recruiter that truly understood, in my mind anyway, it probably says a lot about me and how impatient I was, really, in truth. But I never found one that I gelled with. So ultimately what tended to happen was I would just do my own recruitment, and people thought I was mad. But I think there's like some similarities there, because you just did it, right? You just did things. You just, no, I'll do that. I'll just do it.
Just figure it out. Like, I was like, well, I don't know how to do it. I'm willing to learn. I'll figure out the way. And if, you know, I screw it up, then, well, at least now I know a way not to do it. Like, it was just, I always say, like, I am delusionally optimistic. If you give me something, I will like work until I believe that I can do it. And then if you've already rewired your brain that you're going to do the thing, then 9 times out of 10, you are actually going to do it regardless of how you get there. So that was pretty much that whole first part of my career. I was like, yeah, I can do this. Of course I can do that. I don't know where I got the confidence from, but it just, it was almost like I unintentionally rewired my brain of like, well, I can just do anything I put my mind to and we'll see what happens.
But I truly believe in it. I think attitude is like 80%, right? And don't get me wrong, skill's important, but you clearly have that anyway. But it was that kind of belief, because there's so many skilled people that I know that just don't have the belief, or they think about what's going to go wrong and they think so much that they don't do it. They don't do the thing. It's funny, like there are so many smart individuals that I know that will never work for themselves because they just look at how it can go wrong, and I need to pay my bills and I'm going to be skint day one, and I think I had a bit of that in the beginning. It was scary, but yeah.
I mean, it's always scary, but like same with me when I went out on my own. I was so unprepared, like because I'd underestimated how many people had been following my journey on LinkedIn. I definitely did not expect that I was going to get fully booked within a month. Like I had off one LinkedIn post saying that I was now going out on my own. And, I think I had like 4 bullet points at that point of what I thought I was going to offer. Like I hadn't really thought about it enough because I was like, I'm going to have months to figure this out. And off that one LinkedIn post, I had 110 people reach out, like 110 potential clients, genuine clients. It took me 6 weeks to work through all of those meetings and be like, right, who actually needs the help? Narrowed it down to 20, which was still way too much. And then I ended up taking 12 clients on at the start because I'd never done it before. So I had no idea that was way too much work. And it was like, even some of those initial meetings, like I cringe now when I think back to it, but like I still had no idea what I was charging, had no idea what I was offering. They were literally coming to me and being like, well, we know you did the thing for them, so do the thing for us. Let us know roughly what you're thinking about charging. Like, how do you think this would work? Like, there were so many initial clients I got on at the start that believed so much in me that they didn't care that I didn't have any. Like, I was still trying to figure out my pricing. Like, I didn't even have a price to tell people. They were just like, whatever it is, we'll pay it. Just like, tell us how we can work with you. And I'm in the background, like, I'm still trying to figure that out too. Like, only earlier this year, I finally got a website. Like, I have not had a website for over 1.5 years. Everyone has purely found me on LinkedIn. It's been word of mouth. Up until about 6 months ago, I didn't even have a pitch deck that I could send people. It was all just like, oh, so this is what I do, like in an email, let me know what you think. Like, it was just, there was so much that, yes, responsibly I could have had sorted, but I was like, let me just do it, see how it goes. I'll learn as I go, and then I'll start putting the things in place. But I know that there's so many people who are like, I will not launch unless I have a business plan and I know how much money I need to make. And I just like ran off a cliff and was like, well, we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, fair enough. And then, so again, the personal brand, essentially what you're talking about there, I think it's everything, right? And I'm talking about this all day long. And I speak to people, tell me what you think about this. I speak to people who are so talented but they might be struggling to find freelance work. They might be struggling to find their next full-time role. And my advice to them is always like, look, you've got so much to share, start sharing it on LinkedIn. And they can't get their head around it. They'll say to me, oh no, it's cringe. People are going to think I'm this, people are going to think I'm that. And I disagree. I think it's everything now. And I used to think like that, but people say to me, oh, I found you on LinkedIn via your posts. I found you via your work that you shared. And you start to realize, like, yes, it's a social platform, but ultimately it's the go-to. It is the go-to now. And that's only gonna, I mean, I've got another episode coming up with good friend Craig, who runs a personal branding. I think you guys will really get on, actually. Like, he runs a personal branding agency purely for LinkedIn now, and he pivoted from content marketing. And the reason he's done that is because of the sheer demand, because there's so many CEOs of businesses that are so smart and have achieved so many things, but nobody knows who they are because of their presence, and they don't know where to begin. So yeah, I mean, just that's how I came across you. I think your brand is on point. Like, you share everything, warts and all, which I think is so important as well. And actually, that might be a nice little segue. So I saw you share something recently about how you almost gave up a month ago. Now, you don't have to share anything personal, by the way, so forgive me if I'm
open book, so let's go.
Me about that, because I can hard relate, by the way. I think I've had like 10 of those moments, and I was so serious in the moment. But how did you overcome it? And yeah, what was going on at the time?
Yeah, I think I had with the marketing club, that was the side hustle that has quickly not become the side hustle. So there's been a lot of just like constant growing and evolving that I've had to do with that, because then I also work full time. And with the marketing club expanding into Australia this year, I had basically like booked myself back to back with all these events that we were doing, because we were, trying to grow brand awareness, show people, what the marketing club stands for. And for me, because I'm like so intrinsically entwined into the marketing club, I felt like I had to be at all the events that we were doing. So I was, flying all around Australia for every single event, like wasn't missing anything. And I think I just got to a point, I'd done it for about 3 months. I hadn't been home longer than a week at a time, which obviously like, I'm such a slave for routine. So for me to be bouncing in and out of home, like I probably didn't unpack a suitcase for 3 months. Like I was basically living out of a suitcase. I was in and out of hotel rooms, which gets extremely lonely. We'd had a bunch of really cool stuff happen for the marketing club. Like we'd launched a new website, finally launched paid memberships. We had some really cool PR, and all of those moments that were massive milestones, not only for me personally, but for the marketing club in terms of validating why we exist. I was alone in a hotel room to celebrate those because I wasn't around anyone, not my partner. I had no friends. And I think it was just slowly chipping away at me a little bit. It kind of felt like, what is the point of this when I'm constantly by myself? And I'd kind of like reflected on that moment, and I was like, I currently feel like I am everyone for everything else and nothing for myself. And that really hit hard. And I suppose, having almost burnt myself out before, I've become very aware of what the warning signs look like of me going too hard, too fast. And I think for me, I'm always going to teeter the line of burnout because I'm so passionate about what I do that I don't think it's realistic for me to ever have work-life balance or set really clear boundaries, because this is just how I function as a human. And while I'm slowly accepting that moment, probably a month or so ago, it was just too much. I got home. I was like, I am so tired. I've got people like pulling at me every which direction because everyone wants something from me. And I just felt like I'd kind of lost sight of like, why am I doing this and what am I getting back from it? And, with the marketing club being the scale that it is now, everything that I wanted to do for my own job that actually pays me the bills, in my head, I was like, well, I either do this for myself and one client, or I do this for 12,500 people. So I never said no to the marketing club because that was literally how I was rationalizing it in my brain. But then when I got home, I was like, okay, so I've said yes to literally everyone else. And like, how long has it been since I've said yes to myself? And, it was only like a day of being like, oh God, do I just stop? Like, I'll quit all of it. I'll go get another job, like whatever. But it was just I think a moment of realization of like, pause, figure out what you're trying to do. And I find that really challenging too, because everything I'm doing at the moment, I've never done before. So everything is constantly uncomfortable. There is no week or day where I'm doing something and I feel like I'm in a rhythm. I feel like I'm on top of things. Like I finish one task and 3 other tasks appear, and then I finish those and then it's 5 other tasks. So it's kind of almost like you've got to be a special kind of human to be able to consistently be in that level of uncomfort all the time. And I think probably when I did that post a month ago, I was just kind of over it. I was like, I am so sick of not feeling like I know what I'm doing. And on top of that, just on a personal level, my dog died. So there was a lot of emotion going on there as well. And it kind of like felt like I was just trying to push through life to, do everything for everyone. And yeah, I just had a minor meltdown. But luckily for me, those meltdowns only last about 24 hours. And then I picked myself up and, the big, strong, ambitious Chanel like takes over and she's like, all right, like you had your moment to cry now, like let's get back on the horse and keep going.
Yeah, no, but you also like really self-aware, like you just acknowledged there that like you do teach on the edge of burnout, and I can relate to that. And it's funny you say that because I don't know how to operate in any other way either. It's kind of all or nothing, because I tend to feel guilty if I'm not pedal to the metal, which isn't healthy. But equally, the anxiety that you experience, and I'm sure you could, it sounds like you're the same, if you don't go all in, is sometimes worse. So yeah. I can relate. I can relate to that.
I think on that too, and this is, I'm probably like one of the most self-aware people you'll ever meet, which is great in these moments, but it's also incredibly frustrating because if people tell me things, I'm like, I already know. I know that I'm like this. I can see the problem. I'm not sitting here delusional being like, oh, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, I am so aware that this is happening. But I think one of the hard things when you get to like this level of operation, and especially with the marketing club, when I'd gone through that, and even with my own consultancy, the level and the rate at which I was pushing, there was constant validation that all of that was paying off. It's not like I was sitting there spinning wheels and nothing was moving. It was like, okay, so I flew to Sydney for this event. Then the next week I was in Melbourne. The following week I was back in Melbourne. Then I went back to Sydney. Then I was in New Zealand. The momentum from all of that was almost immediate. I could see it. We'd fill a room with 100 people. We'd lock in a new partnership deal. We'd get a new sponsor on. So it was like the payoff was so instant that then in my head, I was like, well, all of this is working, Chanel, so just keep going. And I just forgot that, behind all of that, I'm a human that has to eat, sleep, breathe, and function. Like I'd kind of just put that all out of my head and be like, nah, just go, like sleep when you're dead. And I'm like, okay, but now I'm like half broken. So let's just calm down a little bit. And, I now my new motto, and it's so savage, but like no one is going to die if something doesn't happen. And that's kind of become the baseline of when I'm stressing myself out over the 1,000 tasks I need to do, I literally come back to, is someone going to die if I don't get this done? But it's so hard when you operate at such a pace. I set so many unrealistic deadlines or timeframes of when things need to get done. And then I feel like I failed if I haven't done them in those timeframes. But then I remind myself, I set those timeframes. It's not like I've got people in my inbox saying like, hey, you'd get this to me last week. It was just in my head, oh yeah, I'll get that to you within the next hour. And then I don't. I'm like, oh, Chanel, you failure. And I'm like, you're not though. Like, this is you.
I honestly, again, I'm not just saying it's like my marketing, right? I want to do more and more and more to market myself. So there aren't many recruiters out there doing their own marketing and stuff. And because of the background, there's so many ideas, but then I start to resent it, especially when there's deadlines, which again, I've set myself, to be fair. Or I might be using, there's awesome freelancers I use for certain things and stuff. And understandably, they'll say, okay, but I need things by this time, that time, that time. And then you just feel the pressure. And then there are times when I sit there and I realize this is self-induced. Like I do need to do this. Like this is, so yeah, I get what you mean. I do completely get what you mean there. Do you know what, the thing I wanted to ask you, right? So talk to me about Oz, because Australia is, as we know, it's like a market I'm loving right now. I do got some really awesome clients there and due to go out there pretty soon to meet those. But yeah, what brought you to that decision? Was it a natural thing, or did you always plan to move into the Oz market?
No, I guess personally, when I started my business back in New Zealand after the FMCG brand, I thought that would be the big new exciting thing to sink my teeth into. And because I'd had such a hyped up start from being fully booked almost immediately, it was exciting. But then about 2 or 3 months later, it kind of felt like I was just having the same conversations with the same people. Like New Zealand is obviously quite a small country in scale of the rest of the world. Auckland specifically, where I was living, was like a bubble. And I just noticed that I started just to want more. I felt like I was hitting a little bit of a ceiling in Auckland. And then while I was on mental health leave, actually, I launched the marketing club into Australia, which was never supposed to happen. Basically, there was just so many Aussie marketers following me on LinkedIn, seeing what TMC in New Zealand was doing, and was like, hey, like, we want that over here. And I'm like, I'm not even in the country. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. So once we did launch TMC over in Australia, I just started kind of grappling with the fact of like, this could be a massive opportunity as well. Like, Aussie's 10 times the size of New Zealand. And I think because I had worked so hard, to get my own business going, but then also the time before that, I honestly think I was just exhausted. I was like, I just need something to shake me up. Like, I feel like I was almost just in autopilot mode going through my life. It was like Monday to Friday, 80-hour work weeks. The weekends, it was always raining. I wasn't doing anything for myself anymore. And I just kind of, I almost felt like I was watching myself on a movie, and I just wanted to like grab me and like shake me and be like, go do something, like get some excitement going. So the move to Oz was purely just to like shake things up. Obviously, warmer climate. Like I'm basically like a house plant. I just need sunshine and water, and I'm happy. And then obviously the scale of Australia appealed to me massively as well. Like me as a consultant, and obviously the potential of the marketing club. I was like, right, like I'll move there, see how I go. If I hate it, it's not like I'm moving to the other side of the world. It's like 3 hours from New Zealand. So all I have to do is get a plane back and then, just admit that it was a bad mistake. But yeah, that was pretty much the motivation, was just to try shake things up. And I think because I wasn't loving my life in Auckland anymore, I thought, well, if I move somewhere that is so much warmer, is bigger, You know, maybe eventually I'll get a work-life balance at some point too. I mean, I definitely don't think work-life balance, you know, 50-50 is ever obtainable. I mean, great for the people who do, but realistically, that's just not how I'm ever going to function. But it was kind of just a moment of like, what do I want out of life? I'm young, I don't have kids, I don't have a mortgage. If I don't do the thing now and I don't try it, then I'm never going to end up doing it. And for me, once I get an idea planted in my head, like it never goes away. It's just like that constant like scratch that keeps you awake at night. So I was just like, fuck it, jump, see what happens. If you hate it, go back.
Fair enough. Yeah. So when I was doing my digging and looking into your values and everything, well, the marketing club's values, I should say, read some out that I found. So not just another networking group. So it's built on accessibility, support, real value, and rejecting ego-driven industry norms. So can you unpack some of that? Like, so what were the drivers? Was that based on experience of those things that you'd had, or just what you don't want going forward?
Yeah, I think a lot of the marketing club, because I didn't know it was going to become this thing, right? Like I think I always have to give context. When I started it, it was purely because I was sitting in a role with a big budget, with the weight of the marketing world on my shoulders for this company, and I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So when I started TMC, I was like, right, all I need is a few other marketers to talk to. And I remember the whole way it started was I spoke at an event and there was 100 people in the room. And I, you know, at the end of it, I was like, by the way, if you're in marketing, like come join this marketing group that I've created. The next day, I literally did one LinkedIn post saying, we've got the Slack channel, you know, if you're a marketer, come join us, whatever. There wasn't really any bigger plan than that of what it was going to become, because I literally thought, oh, we might get 20 or 30 marketers in, we can all hang out in Slack, ask each other for feedback and advice. Maybe we catch up for coffee once a month and then that'll be the thing. And within the first week, we had 180 people join that Slack channel. And I was like, holy shit. Because I'm sitting there thinking this is just a me problem, because no one else has started something like this. So I was like, oh, everyone else in the industry must be fine. Like, is every marketer sitting in a business feeling like they know what they're doing? They feel purely supported. They like don't need any kind of help. So when I started it, I genuinely thought this is just a me problem. This isn't everyone else, because if it was everyone else, there'd be something that already exists. And there were a few like industry events that I had gone to, but they just weren't a vibe for me. Like I would often show up, I was the only female in the room, the only one under 50. Like the best way I describe them is pale, male, and stale. You know, I've always been quite energetic and loud, so having someone like me like shoot into a room and be very excited about being there, and then, you know, people standing in the corner not talking to me, I was like, oh, like you're not my people. And then going to educational events that were, you know, beyond ridiculously expensive for 2 or 3 hours, taking time off work, all to hear from like a CMO of a massive corporate talk about their $20 million marketing budget. I was like, cool. So I've learned nothing here. Like, that's great for you. Cool to hear your guys' story, but there was nothing tangible there that I could take back to my work. And I think having those experiences, once I realized that the community wanted something like the marketing club, then it kind of made me realize, like, right, how are we going to do things differently? What does different look like? What does better look like? What does building something even just around community look like? Like, I've always been a bit of a community builder, and I probably only figured that out about 3 years ago when I started the marketing club. I would have never openly considered myself a community builder or a connector. But one of the very first things that we did when we did a social networking event for everyone that had joined the marketing club was I sat everyone down in a room. We had a whiteboard, and I was like, right, what do you want? Literally just ask everyone, what are you missing? What do you want? What are you struggling with? Had about like, you know, I spent like an hour like just scribbling things that everyone was saying. And that kind of became the blueprint, you know, for the first 3 to 6 months of like, well, this is what 50 plus people said that they're looking for that they're not currently getting from the industry. So how do we do that? And a lot of that then, you know, dictated the kind of channels that we had in our Slack. So people had conversations. When we started our social networking events, that was obviously like a really good way for me to get everyone in a room and like go and talk to them about what they're missing. And then naturally the educational events we ended up launching, because everyone's like, I'm meeting people, I've got the online support, but when am I going to learn something? And that kind of, I suppose, once we started launching educational events, that was when the snowball started like fully snowballing down the hill, because the minute you bring people together, there's value, there's social networking, and then there's education. That's almost like the trifecta of what humans need to exist and what they want. So once that started happening, I was like, right, like what do we actually stand for? What am I building this? What is the difference of us versus other things in the industry? And I think a lot of it was just, you know, like that sentence you read out. was more just me calling bullshit on what I had experienced in the industry. You know, I'd come up as a marketer in my career having no idea what that looked like, no one to lean on to tell me what that looked like. One of the first roles that I ever got, marketing got kicked out as soon as, you know, lockdown happened. So there was so much, I suppose, like anxiety that I had that like marketing wasn't even seen as like a legit or respected industry. And, you know, luckily I've always been someone that's quite stubborn. And if I set my mind to something, I'll do it. But if I had been a different kind of person, I think a lot of what happened to me early on in my career would have shaken me so much that I quite easily could have left. And I mean, I don't quit on anything, but for me, having gone through that, I was like, how do I create this community or this thing that could be that support that someone needs, that if I had that 10 years ago, I wouldn't have felt how I did. And that was kind of, you know, how I put it together of, you know, it's no bullshit, it's community, it's like actual networking that matters, it's listening to people and what they want. You know, we're not, because I didn't know what it was going to become, you know, 2.5 years later, there was no business agenda, there was no commercial chat. It was literally just like, I'm a marketer, you're a marketer, come and join my community and like, let's all be friends. Like it was that simple. And I think everyone gravitated towards it because it was so obvious that that was what I was trying to do. Like there wasn't, you know, I think if a media company or an agency had tried and done that thing, everyone would have called bullshit because it would have felt like a corporate tick box exercise of trying to do the thing. But because TMC was so attached to me as a human and it was so obvious that I had no agenda, everyone was like, oh my God, of course we'll join. And then as my LinkedIn network was growing, because people started trusting me in the marketing industry, they were like, well, if you've built this marketing club and we trust you as a human, of course we're going to join the thing that you've built. And then it's just been like snowball from there.
Yeah, nice. Well, that kind of brings me to what I was going to ask. So obviously you're all about inclusivity for all. How do you balance that with the commercial side, or does it not? How, like, you know, in terms of accessibility for all, how does that balance like commercially, or is it just not at that point yet?
Yeah, so this year has been the first time that TMC has turned into a commercial model as well. That was kind of the moment of putting my big girl pants on and being like, where is this going? And purely as well, because for 2.5 years, I funded everything for TMC. And now that we're at, you know, over 12,500, I'm like, I can't pay, you know, even filling a room with 70 marketers for food. I'm like, I paid $2.50 per spring roll. Like, I hope you enjoy it. Like, it was just not becoming feasible anymore. So Australia, as soon as I got here, I registered as a business because I just so deeply understood the commercial opportunity that could be in Australia. For New Zealand Marketing Club, we're actually in the process of registering as a not-for-profit, but obviously profit for purpose. So they will run quite differently. But again, like with the commercial model, and I mean, I've never had a business plan. I've never, you know, done numbers with an accountant. A lot of this has just been shooting from the hip or being like, oh, this is just how I'll do it and see what happens. But I've essentially started having a look at what exists in the industry that might be similar or adjacent to us. What is the feedback that our community is giving us about why they don't go to these other things and why they've now all kind of like jumped on us to be the thing to lead the charge? And a lot of it was around pricing. Like there's some, you know, industry bodies, both in Australia and New Zealand. And to go to a conference, you're looking at, you know, anything from $1,000 upwards for a full day conference. And suddenly you've already then priced out, you know, the majority of the marketing industry. Like if you're trying to say, oh, we're wanting to, you know, get junior level marketers to, you know, get in the rooms with the right people and you're charging $1,000 a ticket for them to get in that room, there's no way that happens. So I essentially just looked at, what is everyone else charging? What do we think we could charge that would be a fair rate? And then we'll just do that and see what happens. And again, there was no commercial modeling about this. Like I'm sure if someone's listening to that, Chanel, that is not a good way to do business. But because I had so much feedback one-on-one from the community, I felt so confident in how we were going to launch that commercial model. So we charge $20 a month or $200 a year, and that gets you access to all of our educational events, social networking events, and our dinner club series we're about to launch. We've got a mentorship program that's $45 a month for unlimited mentorship, and you can pick multiple mentors. So we've got someone at the moment, she's got 7 different mentors. She's had 22 mentorship sessions in a month, which equates to like $2.50 a session. So we're always looking at, yes, there has to be some kind of payment at some point because obviously I can't, fund everything anymore. But what feels so low cost and high value And I think because of how TMC was built at the start with, you know, not charging anyone anything, because I didn't even know what it was going to be, the minute that we launched paid memberships, so much of the feedback was like, I would have paid for this a year ago. I can't believe you're only launching it now. Like, so many people would have started paying for it so long ago because the value that they got from it was almost immediate. So that was obviously really good feedback and was why I felt so confident with moving us forward in that. And obviously, you know, there was also a lot of communication to our community of like, look, you've had this for free for this long. Like, it's been great. Everyone could understand that we were growing, and everyone, you know, were coming to these events and being like, oh, it'd be great to have, you know, alcohol here or more food or a bigger venue. And I'm like, well, all of that costs money. And unless you guys start paying a little piece of that, we're not going to be able to execute on that as well. So it was almost getting community buy-in as well. Of, if you want bigger and better, we're going to have to charge you a little bit, but we promise we're going to deliver on that. And then I think the way that framed within the community, which is what I love so much about our community, is people felt like they were involved in that decision with us. It's not like I just hit the hammer down one day and said, right, everyone's starting to pay for stuff. There was so much comms that I had with the community of, hey, this is how we're going to move forward based on all your feedback. Like, would love to get here, but these are the things we're going to need to do it. And then everyone was like, well, of course we'll support. Like, we love it here. Like, what do you want us to pay? We'll pay it.
Nice. Fair play. Well, I was going to say what's next, but it sounds like you're going to be all hands on deck pushing the commercial side of things. Is that what's coming? Is that what's next for the market?
Yeah, for Australia, yes. Like, for New Zealand at the moment, we're in the process of planning our first ever full day marketing conference in October, which is super exciting. And again, that was community feedback. What do you want from us next? We want a full day event. We're sick of you only doing events for 3 hours. Give us a whole day of marketing and we can cover all these different topics. So I was like, all right, like, let's do that and see how it goes. And that's wild because we have only launched that, I think, a few weeks ago, and we've already like sold out the wait list. And we've announced one speaker in a venue, and we've got like 18 other speakers to announce and all these sponsors. But again, community first, right? And then in Australia, we're really focusing on what the commercialization of TMC looks like. So starting to, you know, have chats with commercial partners, sponsorship options, branded opportunities, etc. Really just kind of understanding like, where could this thing go? Because there's so much potential for it. It's just trying to figure out, what do we focus on? What are even like the building blocks we need to put in place just to make sure that we've got a bit of a plan, because obviously none of this has been planned. It's all just been, you know, loosey-goosey, swing from the hip and, you know, see what happens. And we recently did a re-recruitment across TMC. So every region that we operate in, we have a committee of volunteers on the ground that help us execute on things. And in February, we had about 30, and now we've got 110 because we operate across 6 different locations. So that's probably the big exciting thing that we're working on at the moment is, you know, now that we've got a lot more people on the team to help, how much more could we execute on, and what are the priorities for the community as well? Nice.
Okay, lastly, so where can listeners in Oz, sort of my Oz community, how can they connect? What's the best way? Do they reach out to you to get involved with the Slack group? Is there like is there a form? Just anyone?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a website, like www.themarketingclub.org. That's where everything is. If you want to join us, sign up for mentorship, etc., find out when our next events are, like, that's always easy. Otherwise, I'm like obsessively on LinkedIn all the time as well. So like messaging me too.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. Oh no, what I'll do is I'll share a link after this as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'll share all of that with listen, thank you so much. Like, we've hit nearly an hour. I appreciate that. And that was a lot of good stuff. There's a lot to unpack there, to be fair. We covered a lot of ground. I feel like there's another episode in there.
Yes. This is why I never stick to questions, because I'm like, if you just like, my mouth just runs.
It's great. I think, that's great. I think, like I say, we covered a lot that I didn't really expect to, but I think for me, what stood out there is the theme of imposter syndrome, but fighting through that, and clearly not just fighting through it, smashing through it, but also not overthinking. Like, you didn't really overthink it.
I don't overthink anything, and I think, like, I've been called reckless before, you know, by a few like uptight business people, being like, this isn't how you should operate. Obviously, I've you know, managed to somehow like insult some people because I like don't think things through. But I'm like, again, no one's going to die. If I get something wrong, no one is going to die. And if I learn something from it, then that matters more to me. So I think I've kind of become almost ruthless with it. I'm like, look, you let me do my shit my way. because currently it's working, and the shit that doesn't work, I learn from it anyway. So to me, that's still a win. I'm like, I'm fine with everyone being super organized and, you know, validating shit and pressure testing and whatever. But I'm like, that is not my way, and that has never been my way. So let me do it my fucking way. And if it's so wrong, I'll eventually learn it. But like right now, the way that I'm doing things isn't not working for me. And I kind of hate when people try and judge me for that. I'm like, each to their own. Like you know, absolutely. If you're the kind of person that wants to have all your T's crossed and your I's dotted, like great for you. I will never be that person, because fundamentally that's just not how I'm wired. So like, let me go my way, and then we'll just see what happens.
And again, I can relate so hard. Like during content marketing days, people used to look at my processes and think, this ain't going to work, because there was no plan. I would obviously have my ducks in a row in terms of kind of what I was looking to achieve, but I would just go hell for leather, and then the results would come. And it's kind of like that thing, like don't look behind me because there's a mess. Just look. There's a lot.
Finish line, but don't watch me run the race.
And did you ever find during your career that there were certain people that you just didn't gel with because of it, because they just couldn't get their head around it?
I have had, and I mean, this is, you know, like my career journey has been a bit of a dumpster fire up until about 2 years ago. But I have consistently had or come across people in my career who were supposed to be, you know, like support people, that literally teared me down because they didn't understand how I function, the way that I think. They tried to belittle me for thinking differently to them. Unfortunately, a lot of these people have been women, which has been really hard for me to deal with, because, you know, I can almost, not to start a sexism thing here, but I can almost understand when it's a man, because you don't understand how a woman thinks, and you never will inherently because you're not a woman. But when it's done by another woman, I'm like, you know, like we are, you know, we're the same species. Like, how can you do this to another woman? We're supposed to lift each other up, not bring each other down. So that's been something I've really struggled to deal with, is just finding people not only in my corner from a cheering point of view, but finding people that I can actually go to and lean on for support. Because it's very easy to say that you're the person that will support someone, but you know, when I question a lot of the things I'm doing, like, this is a very lonely race and a very lonely option that I have chosen to go on. And there's not a lot of people that I can relate to, because yes, someone might have done something similar, but it's never going to be same. So I am very isolated a lot of the time, and I am aware of that. And that has become a conscious choice, because I believe so much in what I am building, and I know it will pay off. But the consequence of that is it is very hard for me to find people that I can trust to talk to about this thing and help me on the journey.
Yeah. No, I see that. I mean, good friends of mine have got really successful marketing agencies, and they can't get their head around the way that I work from a business perspective, and they probably never will. But we both, I think so. You just kind of learn that, listen, it's working for me. Don't worry about it when it's not. And don't get me wrong, there are points when it stops working and had to get a bit more sophisticated. But yeah, I'm all for just doing it the way that works for you. If it works, it doesn't matter what people think, because half the time, people that want to fit neatly into these boxes, they're not actually getting anywhere. They're just looking at other people in those neat boxes and thinking, well, they're doing it, so that this is the way it is. So that's, again, I think that's another episode, and we should do that at some point.
This is just step one of like a 10-part series, right?
Yeah, that's you
next year.
Do not tempt me. Listen, thank you so much for coming on to episode 3 of Roll Talk. Yeah, I hope people enjoyed this. And like I say, there's a lot to unpack, and I'll share the footage and all the links, and I'll share the clips with you as well. But yeah, thanks a lot for chatting.